Hello and welcome back to the Letterbox Podcast, the place where I share real letters from real people, one letter at a time. Today's letter comes from Liya. She's 17 years old and recently began sharing her writing online. Her letter today is a thoughtful reflection on growing up, paying attention to the moments that shape us, and discovering that perhaps an ordinary life is not really that ordinary at all. It's one of those letters that I think actually, as an adult, if you look back at your own teenage years, I'm sure there was a time we could all resonate with some of what Liya says. But before I read you Liya's letter, if you would like to support the podcast, the very, very best way that you can do that is to press the follow button wherever you are listening and then share it with somebody else who you think might enjoy it as well. It really does help more people discover these stories and it sends these letters all across the world. And remember, if you feel inspired to write a letter of your own, I really would love to hear from you. There is no strict rules about what your letter has to be about. You don't have to have a big or dramatic story to be part of the letterbox. If it's important to you, then it's important to us. But here it is, from the lovely Liya. Dear stranger, I've been trying to figure out what my story is. Whenever people tell their stories, there's always a beginning, a moment that explains everything that came after. I've searched for mine. I don't think I have one. No defining tragedy, no remarkable triumph. Nothing that could fit into a sequence and make someone say, "Ah, now I understand you." I'm 17. And perhaps the truest thing about me is that I've spent more time noticing life than living loudly inside it. I notice how children spend time as though tomorrow is guaranteed, while adults hold it like loose change, careful not to waste a second. Teenagers exist somewhere in between. We're old enough to hear time leaving, but too young to stop it. Every ordinary Tuesday already feels like something I'll miss. Maybe that's why I write. Not because I have answers, but because I'm terrified of forgetting the questions. I've watched my parents become people instead of superheroes. I've caught my mother's anger in my own voice and my father's quiet distance settling into my habits. It's unsettling realizing that inheritance isn't only in our eyes and our smile. Sometimes it's hidden in the parts of ourselves we promised we'd never become. Lucky for me, I'm self-aware, and I'll never let the anger consume me, and neither will I drown myself in distance. I've learned that friendships don't always end with arguments. Sometimes they simply become memories while everyone is still alive. I've learned that 8 minutes of someone's attention can make loneliness loosen its grip. I've learned that the people who say, "I'm okay," often just don't know where to put the truth. I think that's why I've always been drawn to the things that don't have names. The silence after laughter, the version of yourself that disappears every birthday, the grief that comes from becoming someone new. I used to think growing up meant collecting pieces of yourself. Now I wonder if it's learning how to grieve the pieces you quietly leave behind. Maybe this isn't my whole story. Maybe I'm still too young to know what it is. Maybe this is simply the chapter where I learn an ordinary life is never really ordinary if you're paying attention. And if one day someone asks me who I was at 17, I hope they don't remember me for anything extraordinary. I hope they remember that I was paying attention. I hope they remember that I was paying attention. With love, from Liya, a stranger who is still becoming. Thank you, Liya, for trusting the Letterbox podcast with your words. It is so clear in the way that she writes that she is really a poet at heart. And so it was so lovely of her to choose to do something slightly different from her ordinary writing and create a letter for us to hear today. The letter really does remind us that not all stories have to have some big defining moment. And sometimes we do just grow up without anything big happening. At just 17, Liya reminds us that there is really something extraordinary about simply paying attention. And I think that's something that I need to work harder at. So thank you again to Liya. If you have enjoyed Liya's letter today or any of the letters that we have put out on the podcast, it really does mean so much to me and everybody who has written a letter so far. If you can press the follow button and then share it with someone else. Everyone is choosing to send these letters in because they want them to be heard. So by sharing, following, and rating, you are putting a postal stamp on these episodes and sending them all around the world. And that is really incredible. I really hope that if you're listening today and you are 17 and you feel like you haven't had a big defining moment in your life yet, that maybe this gives you a little bit of comfort and a bit of reassurance that perhaps that is the greatest way to live your teen years. Thank you again for listening to the Letterbox Podcast. I'm Lucy, and I'll see you next time.